The next area that we want to go into is one that's referred to as the control of hazardous energy. A lot of people refer to this as simply lockout tagout. Under the federal guidelines, the requirements of the employer are to develop a written lockout tagout program. Inside this program, he defines the 3 different classes of employees that work for him: the authorized employee, the affected employee, and the other employee. The authorized employee is an employee who, through virtue of training and certification, is determined to be able to lock out and tag out the various energy systems on his contract. An affected employee is basically everybody else, because when that authorized employee locks out or tags out a system, your ability to perform your work or your service is affected by the disruption of that energy flow. So then where do the other employees come in? The other employees, as referred to in the standards, would be someone from outside your company, someone from downtown who's brought in on a contract. They bring with them the use of their tags and their locks and their procedures from the companies that they work for. They may or may be different than what we have out there, although the basic premises will be the same. But the idea here is awareness. We want them taught and become aware of what our tags mean, just like we need to become aware of what their tags and their lock colors mean, so that it's a free flow of information and it better protects all that are exposed. Some of the typical examples of energy sources, the most common that we think about is an electrical energy source, but there are many others: hydraulic energies, pneumatic energies, gears and machines that are turning, that even though you cut off power, continue to turn those windings until the energy is absorbed, commonly referred to as kinetic energy. There's potential energy in the fact that some of them are held up hydraulically, but when you turn off the hydraulic pump, would fall unless you contained the potential energy by racking them out. Pressurized liquids, gases, all of these pose risks that have to be dealt with under a lockout-tagout program. The control of hazardous energy under the lockout-tagout program requires a standardization across the entire company of all tags and energy control devices and locks that are used in the workplace. OSHA sets down some standards. They say that they've got to be durable, able to resist being easily removed. They've got to be able to read the hazards and the names and the information that's on the tag, even though they're exposed to weather and chemicals, and that they've got standard colors, shapes, sizes that are easily identifiable. And we can also identify who was the authorized employee who attached it. So what are the steps to lockout tagout? How do we control energy? What we have here listed are 6 steps that are mandatory steps to make sure that we do a control of energy as defined under OSHA law. First step, preparation. Under preparation, this is where, as an authorized employee, I have to notify all the affected employees that I'm going to be shutting a system down. This is where I'm going to have to remove guards off of machines. Shutdown. This is where I actually physically turn off the switches and turn off the circuit breakers and close the ball valves. Isolation is the process by which, once we shut down those circuit breakers, that we in turn apply our locks, our tags, and our devices in such a way as that we control the flow of energy. The last thing that it talks about in step 6 is verification. Of the 6 steps, this is the one that, if not properly done, will get you in the most trouble. Verification leads to most accidents in the industrial workplace. Verification, for all intensive purposes, should be done through instrumentation, i.e., if it's an electrical source, put a multimeter on it, a direct reading instrument. If it's a hydraulic pressure, use a gauge system, a direct reading instrument. All too often in today's society, with a quick, easy way of doing things, they have devices that now, for electrical energy, that you can simply pass near it, and if it comes near an energized circuit, it starts flashing. These devices are commonly referred to as widowmakers, and they're called that for a reason, because sometimes they function and sometimes they don't. There is no instrumentation associated with them. And should they be defective, or should they not get a sufficient enough reading, they wouldn't flash. You would think it was de-energized and now expose yourself to potential risk. Once we've locked the system out, we conduct repairs safely. Once the repairs are conducted, now it's our job to re-energize or bring this system back online. The way we do that, as it says here, is to restore the work area. What we're talking about here is to remove all of our locks and all of our tags, notifying all of our affected employees prior to the restart up of that particular machine. Under the federal standard, an employer is required to maintain 100% accountability of all locks and tags. This is done through lockout tagout documentation. OSHA simply says that you have to have a log. It doesn't give any specifics, so that leaves it up to the discretion of the individual companies that we work for or the organizations that we work for. Fortunately, here at the Kennedy Space Center, we've got standardized forms, standardized tags that are NASA tags. Out in the real world, things will change. Each company will do it differently. Some use electronic logs, some use manual logs. Both are authorized as long as you have a documented system, everybody uses it the same, and that the energy is controlled. Additionally, we've got a responsibility to develop the proper procedures to lock out and tag out the various systems. Once again, that will involve engineering. It will involve experienced employees that have worked with these systems. It may involve the developer of the product so that he can tell you exactly how to remove or isolate all energies that go into it. The last thing that we need to understand is that annually under federal law, the Safety Department is required to audit a lockout tagout program. Here's where they come in, and if you've got 3 systems that you lock out in your area, they're going to pull each of those 3 procedures down. Then they'll ask for 3 authorized employees to execute them, and they will watch each employee execute that authorized lockout tagout. Once it's done, they'll verify that the procedure worked and that all energy was removed, and that'll complete both the review of the authorized employee as well as the procedure for that year. The only other thing we haven't talked about is probably the most formidable obstacle of all of it. The person that installs the lock and the tag. He is the only person that's able to remove that lock and tag. And the rationale behind that under federal law is so that someone doesn't go in there and operate a piece of equipment that's locked out or tagged out, or bring one back online and put other workers at risk. So once again, the only person that can remove a lock or a tag is the person that installs it. There are some exceptions to this rule under an extreme emergency. For example, a natural event, a flood, a hurricane, where that employee couldn't be recalled, then there has to be a specific procedure that tells you exactly how to do that task. Usually, most companies will require a member of management to do it because policies are very clear. Lockout tagout is the most stringent form of safety that can be placed into effect. If you use a piece of equipment that's locked out or tagged out, if you remove another person's lock or tag, well, to say the least, you've probably just tendered an involuntary resignation, or in plain words, they'll fire you for doing that.